listening to Positive Perspective, one of the most interesting hours in radio, where we shine the positive light of Jesus Christ on the scriptures, music, our communities, and world issues. We're broadcasting live from Skidrow Studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles.
Hi, you're listening to Positive Perspective. I'm Willis Boyd.
And I'm Shantae Duncan. And you're listening to Positive Perspective. Tonight in studio, we have Vache Yusefian.
How's it going?
How you doing, Vache? Thank you for coming. And we have Marilyn Irazelli. Yes. What?
Marilyn Irizarry.
Irizarry. I was close.
Yeah,
I was really close. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start off with a little interview with Vache. So can you tell us who you are, how you got into poetry, and what you're about?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Vache Yusefian. I also go by Stitch, like Lilo and Stitch, so feel free to call me either. How I got into poetry and writing, I guess it started back in high school with like that teenage angst poetry, like the one you write in the dark corners of your room listening to hardcore rock. But then it evolved into something else. I started like short story writing and then writing stories in fiction. And when I came to University of California, Irvine, actually, I went through the orientation program and listened to two poets that are now close friends perform spoken word poetry. And I didn't know what it was at the time. They didn't say, this is a spoken word. They just came up and performed. And after that, what they did really inspired me to really pursue my own poetry again and go into not the dark corners of my room, but rather go outside in the world and try to do something else with my writing. And since I didn't know what it was called, I didn't know where to go. So I searched through all corners of the campus and whatnot. And what I ended up finding was one of the people that performed came to my dormitory area, and he performed inside the cafeteria. And with that, I saw him and I approached him and I was like, hey, you're that guy that performed during orientation. Oh my God, I love you. Like, can I do what you're doing? And so after that, it was just like magic. He introduced me into Uncultivated Rabbits, and I've been with them for 4 years. And now
Who?
Yes.
Uncultivated Rabbits.
Oh,
so
okay.
Uncultivated, like
I thought you
produce.
said
Uncle. Explain.
Uncle.
Yeah.
You said it so fast, it sounded like Uncle Rabbit.
Oh, am I talking
Uncle
really
Rabbit?
fast? I could slow down.
Uncle Rabbit.
Yeah.
Uncle Rabbit. It's not Uncle Rabbit. It's uncultivated rabbits, like uncultivated, like produce.
We know.
And rabbits, like the ones you see in Aldrich Park at UCI. So I got introduced to them, and I've been with them ever since. I still talk to them, and it's such a great community. So that's how I've evolved, I guess, from the writing.
And where do you get your inspiration from when you're writing? Like, what's your process consist of?
So I just take a lot of what I learn in my life and apply it there. I have a ton of inspiration, like coming from other people. I have role models in my life. I think the first spoken word poet to actually really inspire me, besides the orientation staffers that did perform at that time, was Super B. He goes by that nickname just like I go by Stitch. His real name is Brian Oliva. I'm good friends with him now, and because of Uncultivated Rabbits, we brought him to UCI and everything, and he just has such a way with words. It's so inspiring, and I saw him live like a couple times. I cry every time and I know like the word for word every line.
Is there like a specific poem that
his dad poem? Oh my Lord! And it's like it's a kind of an inspiration of the one of the poems I'm gonna perform today. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Would you mind performing that poem for us now?
Oh yeah, sure.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he has this dad poem. He's not a father yet, but he has like a niece or nephew that asks him all these questions, and he doesn't have all the answers to those questions. So he tries to come up with the answers on the spot like a real parent. And it really inspires me to like be a good father one day. And my poem is called Dear Daughter, and it's should I have a daughter, like what would happen? You know, like what could I say to her? So it goes, Dear daughter, you were showered with compliments more than meteors on the night when I fell in love. You are my world and my universe because you're so small, yet so big. You are ever expanding space as you take up more and more of my mind and heart. Day after day, I'm watching over you like the sun and moon take turns watching over this earth, keeping it alive. I want to protect you like fortress and castle, but not keep you away by adventures or your prince, because you have so much to experience. Only have a few words for you. 1. You will fight battles with other astronauts in this atmosphere, trying to reach for air, feeling like there is no oxygen, but be yourself, regardless of wearing the mask, and understand that there is enough of the world to share with 7 billion people. 2. Boys will be boys and try to whisper sweet nothings into your ears. You will hear them echo throughout your memory, but they are empty promises bouncing off the acoustics of good times. Have fun, but don't let them take advantage of you. You are more precious than oasis to desert. So don't let them treat you like black matter, because you should definitely matter to them. Don't give anything away easily. Hold tight to it like children sucking on pacifiers. You are 3. An incomplete sentence. A fragment of your life only passed away, but understand that in space, time can go faster or slower depending on where you are. So have picnics on the moon and realize time flies. Jump through Saturn's hoops and cope with losses with large amounts of time. However, know that you will always find home on earth, in my arms, in our home. 4. You wished upon stars, genies, and wishing wells, hoping for greater possibilities, looking up into the darkness to find clarity and maybe some light. Birthday candles blown away, chasing rainbows at the end of rain. You were always running to find something better. Never give up and instead stop to realize that you are in a bedroom with a roof over your head, with a family who loves you as you blow away at birthday flames, that our picture stays in your wallet as you chase after everything. I'm always here for you. 5. Call me. Do not text. Do not message. Call, because God gave you a voice to speak. And there will be times that your vocal cords might tremble, an earthquake only, silence. And I will fill that emptiness with music. I will fill plaster the cracks in your broken heart when you lose your first love. I will drive you to your first dance, even if you do not want me to be there. I will love you more than meteor showers on the day that I first met the woman who you would call your mother. I will love you more than childhood, more than balloons, ice cream, bounce houses, and everything, because in the end, you are my daughter, sewn complete with 2 X chromosomes, waiting to be born, and you come out kicking, fighting, cold, wet, and hungry, complete with family tree that will have all their eyes on you as they compliment you more than galaxies. You will be beautiful like the time I wished for you over a shooting star.
Vache is like known for that poem.
Yeah.
Everybody likes that poem a lot.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
What did you guys
the
think?
snaps
Any
is part of spoken
feedback?
word.
Did you guys
That's
appreciate
awesome.
that?
Thank
No,
you.
that
Wow.
was truly awesome.
That's incredibly wonderful, fabulous.
Thank you.
Especially for a man that doesn't even have children yet. That is amazing.
Yeah. I really hope to have like a daughter. Like, I know there's like a huge like stereotype that guys want always sons,
yeah.
right? But I want a daughter because like I never had that experience. I grew up with a brother, but I think like going to like the tea parties and then sitting on a chair that's way too small for me and drinking imaginary tea and maybe sipping some coffee instead.
They're overrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead and keep wishing. You'll find out.
Yeah. So that's just why.
Did you say the parties are overrated or girls
I think
overrated?
he's saying girls are overrated.
I'm saying-
That's what I got from that.
Really?
Very, very, very expensive, and yeah.
I'm willing to make that sacrifice. one
I
day.
want you to live that. Okay, you live it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now in May you performed at the Uncultivated Rabbits Express Yourself showcase with
did.
the Joshua Bennett.
The Joshua.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with Joshua Bennett, I'll read off some of his achievements. So he's a world-renowned spoken word poet who's performed at the Sundance Film Festival, the NAACP Image Awards, Brooklyn Academy of Music, and President Obama's Evening of Poetry, and the list goes on. So he came to UCI in May and performed with the other members of Uncultivated Rabbits, and Vache was one of those performers. So what was that like performing for someone like that?
It was amazing because he is so attuned to anything like you tell him, story or poetry or just like having a conversation with him. Just seeing him in the audience, he's just like snapping his fingers
he was
until
really
like
into
they're
it.
red, and it's just he's just really into it. It's like
Passionate.
every word you speak is like good music to him, and he just really feels for it. He like shouts into the crowd. He's like, "Woo!"
He's like rocking back and forth. He's very passionate.
Yeah, he's really passionate. I drove him there, and it was like an hour drive to pick him up from his hotel. It was a phenomenal drive because we had like life conversations and stuff. Because he's like studying to be a teacher. So.
Okay. Can we play a clip of Vache's performance for that? My Letter to Spoken Word is entitled.
Oh.
Dear spoken word, I have kept you secret in high school. Like a father not proud of his son's talents. And you have changed me into something, you have changed me something more than adolescent, teen. You have made me someone now. We haven't spoken in years, regardless of all our moving mouths. From ellipses to ellipses, awkward silences always rang true like Liberty bells. You have fallen for someone else's lips and tongue, but they cannot hear you, and they don't love you like I do. See, your voice calls out, but all you hear are your echoes in deaf ears. And you made this relationship complicated with metaphors and similes as you try to complicate it with comparing us to someone else or something else. But we are unique. You see, you don't need to mold yourself Adonis. You don't need to create perfection. Only stare into the reflection of the lake of your own ego, Narcissus. You are Greek god, blended beautifully, two genres, hip-hop and poetry of heart and soul. But you can come home now, because this is where you belong. This is where you belong. And you don't need to be uprooted by your own family tree, because you bear fruit sweeter than Eden. And you don't need to slam against bark to make a noise over teams and points, because you're just wanting attention, calling out for attention like sirens call out to predestined shipwrecks. You have to walk first. You have to come first. And accept sentences that just don't make sense to the rational. And you have to roll into bed and push verbs out the window and out the door, and you have to roll into bed with subjects and predicates. You see, poetry, you are something different. You can come home and understand that I promise this stage is where I strip secrets. This stage is where I will write in gunpowder and light it with passionate fire. And I will sing wishes, breeze through thoughts. And I will stop time for you. And make us fall in love with this microphone again. Because it's scary being on stage for a 22-year-old man who you have so much hope in. He has 2 words for you. Come back. Sincerely, a poet. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh.
Snap, 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 snap.
I don't know if I should be
snap,
thanking my past self or something.
We're old school. We clap.
Well, actually, remember this?
Yeah.
This is even
Dobie
older.
Gillis.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emily
They
was
said, "Who's Dobie
really
Gillis?"
feeling it.
Yeah.
You hear Emily in the background.
Yeah, our friend Emily.
She was the only one going, That was Emily.
I
She's
thought
the
that was
president
you.
of Uncultivated Rabbits right
Yeah,
now, too.
congrats
She's
to
come
Emily.
really far.
It's amazing. Okay, so what inspired that poem? Or
That poem specifically, so they told me, like, you have to perform something new. You can't keep performing, like, your old stuff. I know their greatest hits album kind of things. So I was like, okay, I could definitely do that. And there's this whole like struggle in the spoken word community between spoken word and slam poetry. And slam poetry is when you do it for competition, and you join a team and you do it for points essentially. And that's why I wrote the line, you don't have to do it for teams and points. So there's like that huge clash, and I think poetry has its roots back in like the times of the Greeks and everything, but it's evolved into something else so much greater now that it can reach so many people. And every writer has a struggle with his or her own writing, and I wanted to kind of describe that struggle as if writing was a person, and it was like a broken relationship that you wanted to fix, and imagine that poetry left out the door and you want to call it back, and how would you write a letter to that? So that's why I wrote it like Dear Poetry. I like this epistolary way of writing letters to inanimate objects or things, or making things objects. So poetry like was kind of that person for me.
When you say though that Greek poets or that whole thing that it's evolve into something greater, I don't get that.
You don't get it?
What I'm saying is like that was the beginning of the foundation. I mean, it didn't die. I mean,
it didn't. No.
But do you understand what I'm saying? It's like
yeah.
that the great scholars and poets and playwrights and those people that started way back then as a fire that just like it's grown.
Yeah. It's definitely not died out. I think it's evolved and when I say evolved, I think it's become stronger.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to reflect back on those roots. It's not like those roots are gone or dead, because we still read like about Narcissus and sirens and stuff and Odysseus like back in the classrooms. I mean, I graduated in English major, so I read it all throughout college and all throughout high school. You learn these stories on TV too. They're having an Exodus movie and whatnot too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, I think, on poetry, when I grew up with poetry was for girls, and it wasn't like the spoken word that's there right now.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot from, I mean, when I know with Melvin and what we've seen with the spoken word, that's not what I grew up knowing poetry to be. That was kind of the soft side.
Is it greater now?
Is it great?
I just think it's become more...
People are more
aware of it and more open on what
people,
it was. Before, like I said, it was like for the softer people were more,
Quiet. Yeah, quiet people.
But so is it greater?
I think more people are, it's more open. Like she said, it's inviting a lot more people into it. A lot of people are feeling like that's something they might want to do or something they can get into, not like it's just for those people doing it.
Well, technically, rap started as poetry.
Yeah.
And revolutionarily. It was to speak what was in their hearts and their souls in a way that would be accepted more readily than a young person trying to go to a poetry spoken word event. There weren't that many venues for that yet. When it came to music and dancing, there were a lot more possibilities for them.
Melvin says that the Bible, he thinks that Shakespeare had something to do with the writing of the Bible. The Bible is a very poetic
Oh, yeah.
book.
I completely agree. Scripture is like written in rhyme and verse, like, almost.
Yeah. So that's Melvin thinks that Shakespeare had something to do with it. And you'll have to talk to him.
That's another conversation.
Okay, I'll give you the crazy eyeglass look. Is that really? Definitely left field.
Okay, so Vacha, you were saying you're working on a book?
Yeah. So currently, I'm writing a book. It's called The Sentimental Series. So it's going to be a series of books. I'm working on the first one right now. I finished the outline, and I'm about 33,500 words in. I try to hit
Not
a goal
that you're counting or anything.
Well, an average book is actually 50,000 words, and that's how they count. Like, what's a book, what's a novella and stuff. It's not by page number, like essays and stuff in college, But it's actually by word count. So it's called the Sentimental Series, and it's about magical objects that people invest so much sentimental and emotional energy in that they become almost supernatural. For instance, if someone has so much hate for a leather jacket that it makes that person, whoever wears that jacket, able to start fires. And then another object has the ability to whoever wears it and has enough honor and dignity, they're able to use that against someone to have like superior strength over them.
So the honor jacket could put the hate jacket fire out?
I don't know if it can put fire out. I know it can start fires. Like there's different classes of sentimentals too. It's a giant fantasy I've been working on. Like I've had the idea since like 9th grade, but I haven't had the capability of writing it or the time because of school and whatnot. And but school has helped me able to write this. And it's about an average guy named Neil Holland. Yeah, his name's Neil Holland, and he's an average guy. He just comes back home from an interview, and he's just like, man, I probably failed that interview, and I just want something more. And then something more just literally bursts down his door, and it's a guy in a cloak named Viello. And so Viello's like, you're in danger. And then another guy named Ed just bursts down the door too, after Viello put it back up. His name's Ed, and then Viello's like, that's your trouble right there. And the guy named Ed. And they both want Neil because Neil's apparently special. He's a seeker and he can seek out the sentimentals because they look like average objects like keys and cell phones and whatnot, or leather jackets. But they are actually have these supernatural abilities if you invest the right energy into it. And Neil has the ability to listen to these sentimentals and find them in everyday objects. So Viello wants to take him back and help him hunt down like a really rare sentimental. Ed wants to use Neil's ability to find sentimentals and just get rich off of it, kind of. So, I mean, why not? If you could start fires with a jacket, what else can you do with an object, right? And I try to add some like funny things into it. Like, for instance, like Neil's in an elevator with one of Viello's assistants, and he's like, oh, so I'm like the chosen one, like the seeker, right? And he's talking to his Viello's assistant named Sandy, and Sandy's like, more like chosen two. And Neil's like, wait. You said I was a seeker, right? And she's like, yeah, but there was kind of a guy before you, and he was a seeker too, and there were two of them, and you were the second one, so you're more like the chosen runner-up. Like, I don't want to go in too many details, but he kind of like passed away when we were working with him. He had military experience, but don't worry, you'll be fine. And so
Scaring him a bit.
Yeah, just scaring him a bit and whatnot. But I try to make it funny, like reverse conventions, like the chosen one, like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Like you're the one to defeat all
I was going to
evil.
say it's kind of like what a lot of the films that are coming out right now.
Yeah,
that are
right.
coming from books and then turning into movies. So,
Yeah.
definitely has that kind of thing going on. And you said you have a new piece that you like to perform for us.
Yes. So I thought to honor like my presence here, like I wanted to write a new piece. I didn't want to go back to the greatest hits album kind of thing. So I wrote a poem. I just recently got out of a long-term relationship, and this is reflecting on that. Usually when you get out of a long-term relationship, there's like a lot of anger and hate because like what did I do wrong? And there's a lot of self-reflection, and I just wanted to turn that around. I'm not angry, or I'm not hateful or revengeful or anything like that. So I wrote a piece kind of reflecting that, like that it didn't take the form of what you initially think when you get out of a relationship. So it's called Dear Ex-Partner. Dear ex-partner, I don't know if you are listening or reading these lines. With the same ears that used to perk up when they heard my voice calling out your name after lullabies. Sometimes I believe that our hearts are still connected, though there's static between these telephone poles and lines. Over the course of a few months, there have been tidal waves of emotions colliding with Facebook posts and messages that would never send because it was the end of our relationship. I cut you off. But consider this, the spoken word, a snail mail that was supposed to send over the boundaries that we have set. I want you to know that I am okay with this idea of us not existing, not being together, holding hands, feeling beating hearts, or singing loudly together to the same songs. Instead, we are replaced with different words. We refer to each other with crosses and X's, past tenses and previous's. Him and her, you and I are no longer us and we, but two separate names never conjoined in conversations. We are two separate accounts of how love used to be, but no longer is. We never get in each other's way. We just changed like seasons. Like how we transition, like the way we transition in and out of each other's lives. We were good for each other, but perhaps not the best. And I want to repeat that this is okay. We are like two balloons swaying together, happy with the static and friction between us, waiting to be taken home, but one gets bought and sold or lost and forgotten, never to be seen again except hopefully in the skies. We had our good times with coffee and corgis and endless nights watching Netflix movies, surprise desserts and leaning on each other when we needed a crutch. Happy mornings were even greater when we greeted each other with tired eyes and yawns. We had our bad days too. Don't get me wrong. Maybe that's why we ended up here, where coffee didn't fix every nerve that the other twisted, where notes couldn't stop you from walking away, where hugs and kisses couldn't replace the words that were taken to heart, but we still held each other's hands in public. In private rooms, we talked for hours about the future, but now this is the present. It is considered a fantasy. You are thousands of treaded miles away. We could walk alone just to be together again. I still remember your phone number in memory, regardless of deleting it off my contact list. I still have the last text saved by your unknown number that is very known to me. I still recall our last conversation, how I wish I didn't hear that you have moved on, but at the same time, I want to say that I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you have started reorganizing things, job, life, even love, that you are going out and exploring more than the city but yourself. You are doing the things we only said in conversations we would do, that you are now saying, I love you, to perhaps the best person for you. We are separate. Our pasts were together. We are like seasons. Sometimes we have transitions. Sometimes we collide on the same day, where we feel summer in the winter, especially in California or in New York. We are now separated, two separate names, no longer mentioned together in conversation. We didn't have the fault in our stars, but perhaps minor corrections, where our names weren't meant to be together. But I want you to know, if you are listening or reading this message, I'm okay. Thank you.
I'm doing it both.
Man, that's like sad, man. And I'm like, I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's really hurting. He's
happy.
got his proud face on, but inside,
It's okay.
tracks in my tears.
It's okay, Willis. It's like breaking down.
I'm like known to make people cry apparently. Like not even just through spoken word, like conversation. Like back when I was in UC Irvine, people would come up to me and they were like, they couldn't even form sentences. They're like, I just can't talk to you right now. And then they just walk away and I'm like, what did I do wrong?
You feel bad. Well, that was great. We loved it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
we're
you.
going to cut to our announcements. Go ahead.
All right, what's going on out there? And where can you get it going on? The best impressions start at home. Elite furniture for affordable prices. Living Large Furniture. That's Living Large Furniture. For more information, contact Richard Boyd at 951-214-8555. Veteran Theater Workshop, led by Melvin Ishmael Johnson and Erlene Anthony, has been postponed and will resume in January. Start the new year off right, improve your writing, and learn how to be a stage manager. I'm talking about getting paid, y'all. For more information, contact Melvin Johnson at 213-479-1764. Let's take a trip back in time and visit the jazz and politics of the 1930s and 40s. The Magnificent Dunbar Hotel, written by Levi Lee Simon and directed by Ben Guillory. Visit robytheatercompany.com for more information on tickets and show times. We'd like to thank our professional engineer, Cheyenne.
Diane.
She's doing an awesome job in there, like always. If you would like to be a part of the show, of our show, through sponsor contact us at 951-789-1046. That's Positive Light Ministries. If you would like to learn more about Positive Light Ministries and donate, please visit our website, positivelight.org, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/wearepositivelight. Thank you for tuning in to Positive Perspective. Visit us at itunes.com to download podcast from previous shows. If you'd like to call in, our number is 800-893-9562. Now back to our show.
All right. Thank you, Willis.
That was really good.
Yeah, it was good. Okay, we're going to move on to our next guest, Marilyn. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to have you introduce yourself and what you're about, where you're from,
Okay.
what you do.
I do a lot of things. I'm Marilyn Irizarry. I am about being of service to the Lord. So how I have been able to do that is through performance, writing. I just finished co-writing a play with 8 women.
Mm-hmm.
We are part of a documentary called Game Girls, which started in January of last year, or no, this year still, which is a documentary about homeless women, homelessness, women who've been homeless, how we got homeless, what our dreams and aspirations were before, during, and after. So out of that film, the documentary, then we all each had something to contribute, and I put my contribution, and then we had the play in September called Rock, Paper, Scissors. It was really good. Of course, that's just my opinion.
I'm sure it was
Biased
really good.
opinion.
Don't break your arm, Pat.
I jokingly say we had a standing ovation because at the end of the play we had question and answers, and we all got up and bowed. So we had a standing ovation. We gave it to ourselves, but we did. I started writing when I was a child. I was very young. I was displaced. I was from a dysfunctional family where I was a throwaway kid. And my outlet, unfortunately, had become drugs and alcohol. But eventually something in my brain, which was artistic and had a lot to give, share, take in, and interpret, I got to learn how to write. I got to learn how to sing, dance, perform. I was trained to be a theatrical performer, Broadway type of presentations.
What did that consist of?
The teacher that I had, the particular teacher I had, happened to be one of the top vocal teachers in the world at the time. People like Barbra Streisand, Neil Diamond. He was a world-renowned singer to this day. He still performs 40-something years later. Not often, but he does.
What's his name?
His name is Christian Leon.
Oh.
And born and raised in Los Angeles. Also from a Puerto Rican, Hispanic, French background like myself. And then I had years in New York, in Las Vegas. I lived there 3 times, where I was working on the artistic part of me, but unfortunately the addictive part of me took me down. Once I got into recovery 27 years ago, then I started utilizing my gifts to help other people. Eventually what I got into is what's called drama therapy. And so you create to help process whatever's inside of you that you may not be able to do otherwise. My background educationally from starting in Fordham University 35 years ago is behavioral sciences. And so I was the left brain type of counselor, personal recovery assistant. They call them life coaches today. But then I got introduced to the drama therapy part, which became something magnificent to me. because it was a way for everyone to be able to participate. And it wasn't just, you weren't just reading, you weren't just listening, you weren't just in a group counseling, you weren't just one-on-one, you were actually participating.
You're involved.
From a body. Your body has memory, and you don't even realize it. More often than not, people, unless they're introduced to drama therapy or some sort of therapy that deals with the arts, painting is really great. Sculpturing.
Spoken word.
Spoken word. We created in our play Rock, Paper, Scissors, we created masks that had stories. Each one, it was a process I wasn't used to and am now enamored with. I love to sing. I love to write. I love to do anything that's going to help people help themselves. And then eventually be able, from that point where you get the strength, from my point of view, it comes from my faith. And that's where everything starts. And that's where everything is for me. And then I believe we're going to make the world a better place.
Yeah, artists always do.
Yeah.
So you're saying masks that had stories?
Yes, we each one of us got to create our own masks. Mine was a mask that I had taken similar to paper mache, gone through the magazines and found pictures that I felt were either what I did used to do, wanted to do, didn't get to do, did do, or my future. So mine was a very, very long 4 foot, almost 5 foot on a stick. And I was able to carry it around. And somebody actually carried it around the stage for me while I did my spoken word, my part of the play.
Wow.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see it.
Yeah, I'd love this.
We're going to be performing again in February.
Okay.
You said it's called Rock, Paper, Scissors?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were speaking earlier about Victims No More.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Because of my own background, I started in Harlem over 40 years ago in Vista Peace Corps. And at that time, we had young men, mostly women, coming back from overseas, and they were drug addicts. They were addicted. Unfortunately, what happens, somebody's got to pay for those drugs. So they ended up beating up their sisters, mostly girlfriends, wives, and tricking them out. There was a lot of violence in my neighborhood, from the Bronx to the Harlem and in the streets of Los Angeles. So eventually I became an advocate, a homeless and human rights advocate. And this is just a part of the advocacy. It's actually being made into a full play. And it's a poetic beginning. It's long. It's going to be made into a booklet. And then the play will be part of the process. So if you want, I can read some of it for you.
Yes, please.
We want.
Yes.
Okay. Victims no more. I'm telling. I'm saying what you did to me. I'm living. I'm sailing. You abused me. You lied to me. And now all your lies are failing. You effed me up. I couldn't walk. I couldn't run. I couldn't call. You effed me up. What could I do? I couldn't even crawl. You said you loved me. You used me, confused me, and left me for dead. To my brothers and sisters who are scarred for life, for the ones who have died, for the devastated wife, rise up and tell, who did this to you? Gather the others. We're not just a few. On the streets and in the houses, tricking, using to hide the pain. Some have gone crazy. The cycle continues. It's evil's domain. Victims no more. I'm telling. I'm saying. What you did to me, I'm rising. I'm praying. Children of the night, lost and alone, abused by a stranger or by someone at home. Help me scream. Help me yell. This has got to stop. You have no right, no reason. You're pathetic. You're a coward. A mother, a father, the babysitter's son, a pastor, a priest, a scout leader, a teacher, a cop. Shout it on high, weep, wail, and cry, for what was taken cannot be regained. You can never be unmaimed. Victims no more. Stop the violence. Break the silence. Join me for the fight. We deserve better than homeless or hopeless. We deserve better from the blinded to having sight. Victims no more. I'm telling, I'm saying, what you did to me, I'm rising, I'm praying. For those who have been shot, stabbed, beaten, bruised, kidnapped, and abused, say it loud, sing it strong, shout it out, you are wrong, wrong, wrong. Victims no more, be united. We can and are going to fight it. Don't take it for granted. We'll see you in prison behind bars where you belong, so you can spend the rest of your days looking behind you. You were wrong, wrong, wrong. Young and old, alive and dead, we deserve the truth to be told. It has to be said. Someday I'll walk away from the nightmares, the memories, the drugs. Instead, I'll hold my head high, knowing that I helped stop some of the abuse. Victims no more. Victim no more am I. I'm not going to say much more because it's very long, but I'll just give you a little bit more. Mm-hmm. You slashed my heart with your viciousness. You cut me to shreds with your disgustingness. You kicked me in the face, broken teeth, arms, thighs, laughing as you watched me writhe, cry in pain. Someone was called at last. This time was different, not like the past. They took you into where you belong. You're not so tough when the authorities are strong. You're just a coward, a weasel. It won't be long until everyone hears your pathetic song. Some of us committed suicide. This story is for them too. May their souls finally rest in peace. They couldn't see, feel, live past their abuse. Day and night, night and day. It was repeated in their broken minds, crushed bones, bloody bones. Weakened spirits, like animals, we regress and crawl on the floor, on the streets, in our heads, crying to God, wondering, why me? What did I do? Have mercy on my soul. Victims no more. Repeat the words, chant them, sing them. I'm just going to go to the very last part.
Oh, okay.
I was getting ready to clap, but
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead. No,
Okay,
go ahead. It's
so-
great. It's great.
Some of us have even defended our abusers. You ask why? There are so many reasons. Some are too afraid to stick up for themselves. Some are simply too broken, not trusting the system that have failed them. This story's not finished. It has much more to teach. It has many more to reach. Victims no more. It could take a lifetime to give all the facts. Right now, I'm here to claim my life back. Victims no more. I'm telling, I'm saying, stop the violence. Stop the silence. To the wounded, the dead, we won't be silenced. Victims no more.
Whoa.
That was great.
Very powerful.
It's
Very
great, but it's
relevant,
like
too.
it's like you're like bouncing all over the place,
Yeah.
and then great father love, and then it's like the reality of life and
heavy, it's heavy.
and like the
A good contrast.
Yeah.
so yeah, did you go through? I mean, you're writing that from the heart, and
I'm writing this from experience.
Uh-huh.
I was abused before I was even 3. It was the babysitter's son. Unfortunately, this is a statistic. We've spoken of this before, that what
Right.
happens is usually victims end up having more victimization in their life. And unless you can get help, you're going to continue the cycle one way or another. Either you become the victim, the perpetrator, or you become the one that is silent, that doesn't say anything. You might see something and you just won't say anything. You won't protect your children.
Like a bystander.
You won't protect your children or the children of others or anyone else. So I wanted to really make it strong because it's something that we all have responsibility to, protect the children, protect ourselves, and be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Don't just stand by. Be part of the solution. It could just be a little thing to help stop.
I know, but I mean, Positive Light Ministries, pessimist, a glass full, half empty, half full. Is there a solution?
Yes, there are lots according to each circumstance. And I always say, the glass is always full. It's never half empty.
I know,
It's
but
not just
you
half full.
say that, but we're like looking at this big sewer pot we're calling society now. It's not getting better, Marilyn. Now, I mean, be honest with me. Is it getting better?
In whose household?
No, I'm talking about the world. I'm talking about what you see on TV. I'm talking about the politicians. I'm
So you're
talking
saying
about
what we're trying to do is like a drop in the bucket compared to what's going on?
Well, she's saying I understand what she's saying, and it's so beautiful. But what is the solution? You know the answer.
Well, I go back to, and I always say this reference to, it's my opinion, according to my understanding and my beliefs. And I believe that we each have the capacity. There are very few people on the planet, very few, that really cannot help anybody or anything, not even themselves. Those who have certain disabilities.
Right.
The rest of us, we have the capacity to make the difference and make the change.
I believe that.
Your actions will inspire other people if you are doing actions that's going to be helpful. And if you're
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to add to that because I was a huge social justice advocate back in college. Still am today. Not that it's over.
Gave it up.
But I think that in terms of the answer to your question, in terms of what is the solution and how has it changed, today it's more more aware, There's no more behind closed doors. It's more out in the open. There are protests on the streets about these kinds of things, these kinds of injustices happening in front of us that no one used to talk about. We used to just walk away from it and be like, this is not happening to me. But nowadays it's right in front of us and we're actually talking about it. We're protesting about it. We're doing things about it.
I know it, but it's like this guy I heard on the news molesting these kids. He's an ice cream man or something, and he's molesting these little boys. But the things I'm hearing from certain teacher friends of mine is they're basically in school teaching kids that homosexuality is pretty all right. And what I'm saying is that if you're being taught something, then why would you say that's wrong when at school they're saying, well, that's okay. It's all right to be like that. And that's what I'm talking about. Society is making this pot that our kids are growing up in, and the things that we call bad or deemed bad at one time, they're not bad anymore. And to me, it's confusing kids. So they're not going to say, hey, that's wrong, because at school that,
Nisi had something to say.
Well, yeah, I think to answer back to your question is the only way that it's going to improve or get better is if we fall back onto the roots of going back into what the Bible had to say. Society has drifted so far. They say this is a Christian nation, but it's so far from being a Christian nation and following the beliefs in that than what it even was when our forefathers made the country. And founded it and wrote the Constitution and what their intent was for what was going on 200 and some years ago to what is actually going on nowadays. Statistics show that attendance in churches is way down. Go into a lot of churches and you see people in there are 50 plus. There's no young folks, into there. So many are now leaving, those beliefs and going on to, if it feels good, it's okay. And I don't have to answer to anybody.
It's been kind of the groove for, I mean, it's becoming worse and worse, but when you have cartoons of two guys kissing or that thing, then little boys are like thinking, well, there's a guy that wants to kiss me. Oh, that's, maybe there's nothing wrong with that. So what I'm saying is the pedophile or that person and, a young mind being taught that in school and in the media, it's maybe not such a bad thing to the kids anymore.
I think there's a lot of gray area in terms of that. There's no black and white for it.
But do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, but I still think there's a gray area in terms of the things that we're learning and stuff. Nothing is ever truly black and white. This is right. This is wrong.
There's no absolutes?
There are some.
There
I mean,
are absolutely no absolute.
there are some. You know, it just
I'm
depends.
going to argue with that great point. I was abused as a child, as a baby. That was a black and white.
Yeah,
I would
sometimes
have
that's
taken
black
that
and white,
guy
right? Yeah.
and taken his throat and changed his tracheotomy down to his toes. Could I have done so?
I know, but that was back a while. And what I'm saying is now these things are not. It's not dark anymore. It's like he's saying it's gray. It's like these things that we deem evil are right here now. It's not this or that anymore. And I think our kids are learning these things, and they're not going to speak out because they don't know any better.
Or they don't know if it's right or wrong.
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
what we're saying.
Yeah.
You don't, you know.
And it's getting
because it
worse.
is gray
and
areas.
And
of
that's
things.
where, that's where I say is the glass half full or half empty. Is it that they're not going to say anything because they don't know to say anything. So, gosh, I feel kind of weird.
Like,
Mom.
But I think in
back
what
to you,
Marilyn
Sandra.
was trying to say was, if it's even one victim that's saved, or
One
improved
person
on,
that you
that's
help.
one person.
Right.
That's
And I get
one
that.
saved.
I
So
get that.
that's everyone that you can help is better
It's
than what
important.
it was the day before.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And
progress.
for me, there are black and white areas.
There are.
Yeah, definitely.
I
Absolutely.
agree there are black and white, but there's also like that gray area. That's the one you're talking about.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So I'm going to give it back to you, Shonda.
Got a little off topic.
Okay.
Yeah, but Marilyn, I wanted to know if you had any advice for people that are just getting into writing or considering, going down that route artistically, how to get involved in that.
I'm one who believes in education. I believe in reading. I believe in listening. I read articles. I even read certain things that aren't considered part of the arena. Because when I read people's stories, how they wrote something about themselves or their lives, I always learn, always. And so I'm an avid reader and go to lectures and go to support people, listen, watch your audience. Look what is that person creating? The passion. What is it? Find out, learn.
Same goes for you, Vache.
What was the question?
Like if you had any advice for writers out there that might want to get into poetry, spoken word, or
Or writing,
book
in
writing,
general.
that kind of thing.
I agree with Marilyn. Like reading is really important. I just think you should put your voice out there and read, write, do things that interest you and that you're passionate about. If you want a story told, there are ears to listen. And I think the most important thing is write it, speak it, perform it, whatever it is, your venue or your art form, do it. Don't be scared of people judging you or be scared of anything because you'll find support in more than one person.
Yeah, I know that's one of the things that holds a lot of people back is not wanting to perform in front of people because of what they'll think of what you're doing instead of just going out there and doing what you.
Well, it's
your heart
scary
out
no
to.
matter what you're doing when you're standing in front of, all those eyes staring at you.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are they thinking? And you get
Exactly.
lost in.
And that's why spoken word is so powerful because you snap during the performance or you make like you're eating something really delicious. And that just motivates you to just keep going. And, these people are understanding what I'm saying, you know?
Or like in Marilyn's case, if someone comes up to you after the show and, say they appreciate what you did, it motivates you to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And even though I had paralyzing stage fright for years
Wow.
and did not share my gifts, now, no matter where I am, I could be in the middle of the street. Somebody says something, I'll kick into a song and I'll sing right then and there. That's right.
Okay, we're about to wrap up. So you guys have any closing comments? So let's go around the circle. Willis?
Hey, I thought it was a brilliant show. This guy right here, he's like, I mean, you're true to your word. Good choice, Shantae Marie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Marilyn is awesome, as you know, the two glasses and all. Denise, you are awesome, and I'm yay.
Biggest supporter. Denise is our biggest supporter.
She's the backbone.
Yes.
And outstanding job, Shantae.
Thank you again for inviting me. Every opportunity I get, I'm going to use it. Thank you.
I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Okay. And remember, we are never more like Jesus Christ than when we are forgiving, loving, and creating. Thank you for tuning in to Positive Perspective. Have a great night.
Okay.